Okay.
So welcome to Cooking Fun with Joanna, and I am Joanna Hodorowska. I'm a holistic nutritionist and inflammation expert, and my company is Nutrition in Motion. So one of the things that helps us to be more healthy is to do things that are fun. Cooking for a lot of people is not fun, and I think it's actually oodles of fun, which is why I have, 37 videos already on cooking classes with all sorts of, it's at least 37. But, cooking is supposed to be fun. This is a way to learn about new combinations, new spices, anti-inflammatory, healthy, tasty, and typically we try to make things that are done within 45 minutes from start to finish. So today's specialty recipe is a pumpkin squash and turkey chili. So one of the things that you can also do if you want to make it another time is I found these. Whoops, it's upside down. You can actually buy spaghetti squash already cubed. That was a new thing. So you could chop up spaghetti squash and put this into the recipe as well, or you could do what the recipe calls for, which is just have pureed pumpkin. So there's no and ifs or one or the other. You can put both in; it doesn't matter. If you don't want to put the turkey in, you can use mushrooms. You might actually add some mushrooms. And then we're going to use some diced tomatoes, and these are the fire roasted tomatoes because they give you a nice smoky flavor and it adds a nice little zing. I am going with the organic lentil beans. So I probably will be rinsing them as opposed to just opening them and dumping it in, because we never know how long the beans have been in the container and how long they've been sitting in that oil. So we'll want to rinse it. Then there's organic vegetable broth. There's chili pepper. And I like the Ancho Chili pepper because it gives you flavor without the bite. Coriander. Cloves, and an onion. And of course, turkey. This is 2 pounds of turkey because it was a little bit more cost effective. So I bought the bigger pot. And then if you are, I'm gonna actually cut in some kale, spinach, and chard, the baby spinach and kale and chard into the pot at the end, or you can just serve it on a bed of fruit. So those are your 2 options. I'm putting it in because the more greens you can put into your food and hide it in, the better you're gonna feel. The greens are anti-inflammatory. They're alkalizing, which is also where the body repairs. They have a lot of calcium, magnesium, and phytonutrients to actually counteract the stress. And before we started this recording, we were actually talking about stress, and none of us have any stress. But I had adrenal exhaustion 20 years ago. And when I started looking at all the emotional stress, the physical stress, the mental stress, the relationship stress, with even relationships with family, change in job, stolen car, training for an Ironman, it just kept going on. It's no wonder I had adrenal exhaustion because the stress was just eating me up, and I only had one way of dealing with it. So this whole cooking class is really to take the stress out of cooking, make it a little bit more fun because there's all of us doing it together so that we can actually enjoy our food and enjoy how our body is responding to the food. Okay? So you also need a big pot. This one,
trying to get him to push it.
this one's 8-quarter, so an 8-quart pot. That way you can make a lot. But you're gonna turn it on, put some olive oil. Maybe if you want to put a little butter in there or ghee, you can. But I would put this, turn the stove on and put it on. If you're on a gas stove, put it on medium. Whoops, medium. Mine just turns it really low, so that's not a good. That's not a good option. But you want that pan to heat up before you put the oil in. And while we're doing that, we are going to go ahead and
Wait.
chop the onions. What are we waiting for?
No, not you. Yelling at me.
Oh, okay. Wait. Hurry. Oh, wait. That's how it is in the kitchen, right?
I like Shannon's pantry.
Yeah, I like the pot.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah, I like the pot. So we're gonna use the big butcher knife. I don't know if you call this a butcher knife or not. I'm calling it a butcher knife. But you want to make sure it's sharp so that you can actually cut. And we're going to be dicing the onion. So you're going to cut the end off and peel the outer layers off. I actually have woods in the back of my house, so I collect all of my onions and all the other things and then throw them in the woods in the back of the house. It's my natural composting regimen. I'm gonna go ahead and peel both halves. The more you make, the bigger the pot. I mean, you might want to add an onion and a half. If you have medium onions, you'll definitely want to do 2 because one's probably not enough. And we're going to dice it. So my suggestion is to take that knife, push down on the onion and kind of cut it 2/3 of the way across, because since you're keeping this on, you don't want to cut it all the way through there. I've got a runaway piece, so I'm going to slice that. And then you're going to take the end of the knife and cut stripes into here. I don't know if you call them stripes or sections, but either one. And then you're going to cut them, and you can either make them really fine or you can dice them bigger. I'm making mine about 1/4 of an inch thick. And this will help you dice the onions. And then this tail part is probably I'm going to throw that into my pot with, when I make my chicken broth. And then we're going to do the same thing with the other half of the onion. So you cut it down the middle, slice it in sections, grabbing it onto the edge so it doesn't slip. Make sure you hold it onto that knife. And pay attention to what you're doing so that you cut the onion and not your finger. The worst part is you sharpen your knife and then you end up slipping, and usually it slips on an onion. So you're going to put about 2 tablespoons of olive oil into the bottom of that pot, because it should be heated up by now. I think if you're on the electric stove, you wanted to turn that up to high heat. I think I forgot to mention that. So now we're going to put the onions in there. And mine are sizzling a little bit too much, so I'm going to turn the heat down just a smidgen. Otherwise, I'm going to have burnt onions, and that would not be very good. We're also going to put garlic in here, which I forgot to mention at the beginning. So we're going to do 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. If you have trouble getting the peel off, smash the. Gina, that was the best suggestion, but you take that side of your knife, push down, and smash the garlic clove, and the skin will come right off.
Yeah, I learned that from watching Ann Burrell. That's her trick.
You know, when I was having trouble the other week, thank you for sharing that, because that was just not one of those things that my mother taught me. And I was fortunate that my mother did teach me how to cook, which makes cooking a lot easier. So cut that off. And now you're just gonna, you can cut it however you want. I'm just gonna cut each clove into sections, and then cut them into. I guess they're gonna be more like sticks instead of being completely diced. If you have a garlic masher, you can use that, and then you can just go ahead and scoop that onto the knife and into the pot. And again, I'm just gonna hold it on the edges. Maybe you can see it better this way. And I'm gonna slice it into 3, and then cut it on the other side into little slices. So they're not quite diced, but they're at least small enough. And I think I said 3 cloves of garlic. So now I'm on my 3rd clove. And garlic, if you eat it raw, it is a great antiviral, antibacterial. It just doesn't keep the vampires away. It actually boosts your immune system. The cooked one doesn't work quite as well, but if you're fighting a cold, my suggestion is to, oh, sorry, I just, is to try to have some raw garlic and either put it into your smoothie. And this is what your onions should be looking like right now. And you can take a clove of garlic and put it into like hummus or some kind of cooked lentils or beans, and it kind of tempers the fire. But it totally clears out your sinuses, and whatever ails you will pretty much be no longer ailing you within a day or two just by taking the garlic. It's a pretty cool trick. Make sense? All right, so next thing we're gonna do is, if you're gonna use a butternut squash or actual pumpkin squash, or like I had the spaghetti squash, this is where you wanna chop it up into finer pieces so that it can be, so it can cook. Does anybody even gonna use the?
We're using squash.
Are you using like real squash?
Yeah.
All right, so you want to chop this up into smaller pieces. I'm gonna actually do some of it with, because if you leave it in the big chunks, it's gonna take forever to cook. And I'm gonna use the spaghetti squash because my store didn't have the butternut squash. What you're gonna do is actually cut it, take it and put it on its side and cut it into these like half inch sections. Make sense?
Yep.
So, and you're gonna do about a cup of that. Okay. Mine are like little diced cubes. So you're gonna put about half a cup of that in. I'm gonna turn my heat back up a little bit so that I can get this to cook a little bit. But before we put any of the liquids or spices or anything like that, we have to let the squash cook. It'll be kind of cool when it's all nice and chunky. But this is the first time I'm using spaghetti squash. I don't know if it's going to disintegrate and be stringy once it's cooked, but I think it'll be kind of fun. So I think I still have another half a cup to go of chopping. But this is one way of getting your vegetables in as well. And the squashes are now in season since it's October. And next month, next class, I think it is next month. We're going to be doing a class that has actually the spaghetti squash as the main dish.
Get rid of that last tomato.
Now you want to mix out your onions. You don't want your onions to totally brown yet before you put in all the squash. Now, when you have a really big pot, everything gets lost in there. So even if you put in a cup, you think you only put in half a cup.
How many cups of the squash are you putting in?
This is.
How many cups of the squash?
One cup.
1 cup?
Cheese it up. Cheese it up, 'cause-
I'm using the
Pardon me?
pumpkin puree. Am I putting that in now?
You could put the puree in No, no, you're not gonna put the puree in until after we brown the turkey. So we have to put the
Okay.
ground meat, the ground turkey in after we cook this, the squash. So the pureed pumpkin will go in after we brown the turkey. If you want to put some mushrooms in, now would be the time to do that too. And I'm actually gonna put in a half a cup of the shiitake mushrooms. So there's gonna be quite a little bit more of chopping on my end.
Am I supposed to rinse these lentils? I've never cooked lentils before.
No, I would definitely. Did you cook your own lentils or a can?
No, these need to be cooked.
Then go ahead and turn them on and cook them.
Cook them. How
Are
do
they
you cook?
dried or?
They're dry.
Okay. So yeah, boil some water, put the lentils in and just put them on, bring them to boil and let them simmer.
Okay.
Because they'll take a good 20 minutes to do. So. Then stir your onions and squash. Because I like the fact that they're caramelizing, except that I don't want them burnt. I want them to be caramelized. And they taste a little bit better. So I'm gonna just do one more of these and then I'm gonna do some, I'm gonna put some of my mushrooms in. And I cheated and bought, whoops, upside down shiitake mushrooms, but these are already sliced. So that makes it a little bit easier that I'm just gonna cube them into smaller pieces. If you wanted to make this a vegetarian meal without the turkey, you could just use diced shiitake and portobello mushrooms, and that would be your way of doing it. I want these to go in before I put the turkey in. I'm just gonna go ahead and dice these. Mine's gonna be a big hodgepodge of all sorts of things. In the future, if you want to make anything with like lentils and beans and you're making them yourself, the best thing is to put them in a pot, measure out like a cup of the beans and cover it with 2.5 cups of filtered water and just let it sit overnight, or at least for 3-4 hours before you cook it, and it will lessen the cooking time to about 10-15 minutes. The lentils and beans can sometimes take a good half an hour. So if you haven't started a pot to boil water and started the lentils, you might want to get on that now before you chop all the other things. All right, so that's going to be, I think, enough mushrooms on my end, about 1/2 cup of mushrooms to give it a little bit of extra flavor. And maybe even a little bit of texture.
You didn't put the squash in yet, did you?
I put the butternut squash in.
Okay.
Yeah, the butternut squash is already cooking. So as I was dicing it into smaller pieces, I put it into the pot. So I will show you what mine looks like. So this is with my, like I said, I've got this big pot and everything looks like I put nothing in it. But this is what my squash looks like. And the next thing I'm gonna do is put the mushrooms in and let them kind of reduce a bit. And then we're gonna, so in about 5-10 minutes, let's make it 7 minutes. We'll be putting in the turkey so that we can let that cook. Okay?
Yep.
Now we're just gonna stir that in. And we're not gonna put the spices, the other spices in until we put the turkey in. I'm gonna grab the rest of my mushrooms here. Make sure they're all in the pot. And I like using the edge of the pot to scrape off the knife so it's nice and clean. Ooh, get down on the bottom. I find sometimes that if you're putting mushrooms in, if you put a little bit of salt on them, it kind of extracts the juices a little bit faster. Just a little trick. So now the next thing that we're gonna do is, after we let that sit there for a little bit, is we're gonna put in a pound of the ground turkey. Okay. And in the meantime, we might as well, while we're waiting, we might as well do something. I'm gonna go ahead and take the lids off the roasted tomatoes. And I'm going to open my can of lentils and rinse them. Because we might as well do something while we're waiting in between, right? And Shannon, you don't have to open the can of lentils because you're making your lentils. Rinse the lentils, so it's not going to be you're going to open it and just put it in. You're going to. My suggestion is to rinse the beans entirely before you put them in. So.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't find a can.
Use our handy dandy can opener. And then, all right, who's on my? This is great. I don't know where my, it's not a colander. I don't know where my sieve is. No, I have one. If you were my sieve, where would you go? It's not funny, I can't find it. I found one. So I'm gonna go ahead and rinse those. And the easiest thing to do too is if you have one of those spray nozzles on your kitchen faucet, you can kind of shower the lentils dry, or shower them and rinse all that foamy water off of there, and then just let that sit there so that it can drain. Stir your onions, your onions, the squash, and check to see if the squash is actually getting a little soft. Mine is getting soft, so that's how I know it's time to put in the turkey. So what I want you to do, once it's all kind of ready, what I did was I actually took one of my pieces of squash, and can you see how it's kind of breaking up easily? So that's how I know it's cooked. And then I made a hole in the middle because that's where I want the turkey to go, so that I can cook it a little bit easier. So I'm gonna take my 2-pound package and take half of it and put that into the,
Wait, the squash is not cooked yet.
and the turkey is quite sticky.
Joanna, if our squash is still a little hard, should we just put the lid on and give it a few minutes?
Hey, what did you say?
I said if the squash is still kind of hard,
And keep cooking.
Okay, and just put the lid on, because I just put the lid on to try to steam it a little bit.
Yeah, put the lid on to steam it a bit because that'll get it to kind of push
Yeah.
it a little bit. And see, you know, it's gonna take a while for the turkey to cook as well. So, you know, you could move a little bit to the well, just wait till it's a little bit softer. Because otherwise it won't be soft enough once you put the tomato and anything else in
Right.
there. So
Because that's what happened with the last one. I don't know what I did. My chickpeas stayed hard. They never got soft.
yeah, that's the challenge sometimes when you're making them yourself, is that you gotta make sure that they're fully cooked.
Yeah, and I think I needed to cook them because I had soaked them, but I think I needed to cook them a little bit longer because they still were hard when I put them in.
Yeah, well, if they're hard when you put them in, you're gonna have to really overcook the whole thing for a really long time. So, you know, better to kind of wait and then put them all together a little bit later. But that's why we want to cut that squash into small pieces, because if it's in those big 1-inch chunks, it takes forever to cook. So if you cut it into like half-inch, less than
that's
half
what we
inch,
did.
less than a quarter-inch, then it should be, you know, it should be another minute or so, and then you can add the turkey.
Right.
And now it's just waiting for the turkey because that's going to take another 10, 15 minutes to cook too. So now I've got to be entertaining for you, right?
Pretty much.
What shall we talk about? I mean, my adrenal exhaustion was, you know, all fun and all, but it's definitely something where I think we were talking about. Here's another thing we have to use. I have to use my little kitchen grips because my pot is getting hot. It's great to have these conduction pots. So now the thing that you're trying to do is actually break the turkey down into smaller pieces. I'll try to get it down to the bottom of the pan. So mine is just barely starting to cook. I'm just gonna get that off the edge. Off the edge of my spoon. Jen, how's yours coming along?
It's coming.
All right. While I'm waiting for that, I'm actually going to just put the turkey back into the refrigerator so it doesn't stay out on the counter more than it needs to. This is where we could also start adding some of the spices. So we're going to be putting a tablespoon of cumin, coriander, and the chili powder. Got that? So 1 tablespoon. It's gonna take a while with me shaking here. Come on. 1 tablespoon. The Ancho Chili pepper doesn't wanna come out. Come on. All right, there you go. And I like to, if you go over, I don't think that's gonna be a problem. And then luckily this one has a pour spout. So we're gonna put a tablespoon of the coriander. Forgot about the cumin. We need cumin in this too. Ground cumin.
It's mixed in with the,
Oh, okay.
what about the lemon juice?
Not yet.
That's gonna be till the very end. And I like cumin, so I'm gonna put a little extra. Then we're gonna do a half a teaspoon of cloves.
All mixed together.
I didn't mix it more. What was that, the cloves?
Yeah, the cloves are in there, okay.
Yeah, everything's in there.
Okay.
They're putting all the spices in, yeah. So it's a tablespoon of Ancho chili pepper, a tablespoon of coriander, tablespoon of cumin, and half a teaspoon of cloves. And if you can see mine, I don't know if you can see mine or not, the meat is starting to lose some of its juices, which is a good thing. So now I'm gonna try to chop it up, you know, with a, break it up a little bit more with the spoon. That could be the fun with the turkey, or if you use beef with something ground, you want to just chop these up into smaller pieces. And once it's starting to let go of that juice, that's a good time to actually break it apart some more. And there's no right or wrong way. But you're gonna try to kind of put the spoon in and turn it and rotate it so it breaks it up into small pieces. And then you might be able to get some of the top pieces down on the bottom as you do that. Oh, yeah. It's starting to, mine's starting to cook, so that's a good thing. I think this is where I need an assistant so that they could chop it. Because it's amazing how just doing this, it doesn't seem like it should be that much work, but my wrist is getting sore. My wrist is getting tired. So I'm gonna go ahead and shake out my wrist and keep going. This will give you an idea of how to get it all to happen. This is probably the part that takes the longest, cooking the lentils.
All right, Monday,
Cooking the
Tuesday, or
beef
Friday, Saturday of
and the
next week.
squash.
Take your pick.
But breaking it up, at least it
Okay.
takes up some of the time. And then you can go ahead and mix it all together so that the spices get combined. All right.
Okay, so we're just basically cooking down the turkey and the spices and everything.
Right. So this is just but you want to make sure that the turkey is completely cooked.
Right.
Mine is.
And that I'm just going to continue breaking it up so that it's smaller pieces, because, you know, we all like chunky turkey or chunky chili, but I don't know if we want chunks that big. So as it keeps cooking, you just keep kind of breaking it up into smaller pieces. And thank the turkey for giving its life so that we could be sustained.
That's all right. I got a recipe for smoking a turkey, so I'm gonna be smoking a turkey in a couple weeks.
Oh, I think I'm coming over to your house for Thanksgiving.
I was gonna say, we'll have like
Yeah, that'll actually be a pre-Thanksgiving.
You have what?
pre-Thanksgiving turkey.
Nice. Well, I'll be gone the weekend before Thanksgiving, so.
Yeah, I saw you had dinner walking around your backyard from your videos or your
Oh my
pictures.
goodness, if were those the funniest? Were those the
Oh my
funniest?
God, like they were just like, it was like, la, da, 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 da.
I know, like they were just frolicking around. It was hilarious.
I know. I'm like, look, I was gonna put that, and then I thought, you know, when somebody would get offended or somebody would be like, oh my God. I was like, look, dinner.
Well, you know, I love venison. That's one of my favorite things.
I know, I love
So,
that.
You know, there are times where I'm like, can I just do something with them like from here?
And Memorial Day, a friend of mine brought over some
Labor Day.
venison, or Labor Day.
Yeah.
A friend brought over some venison steaks. I threw them on the grill. They were unbelievable.
And
Yeah,
he made a stew too, which was great.
I just find that you have to do very little to it in order to make it good.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I bought some lamb. One of my favorite ways of making those things is just to pan sear the venison with in a little bit of ghee, and then put a little bit of garlic, thyme, and rosemary on it.
That's all you need. Very
And a little
simple.
bit of salt, and it is just so amazing.
Yeah, just very, very, very little. You don't really have to do a lot.
No, you really don't.
Yeah, and usually a lot of times overnight, if I do like a leg of lamb, I marinate it with, I take all my herbs and everything, and it's like, one of those, like, empty out the herb drawer and take all the herbs, and then like take tons of garlic and lemon and just let it marinate overnight, and I wrap it.
This is what it should be looking like. So if you can see, it looks like the turkey is cooked. There's no pink portions in there anymore. And that's when you know it's ready. Then you can actually add the beans and the tomatoes. And if you're doing the pumpkin puree, you can add that in here too. I'm actually going to put a half a cup of the pumpkin puree in there, just because I said it was pumpkin, so I might as well use pumpkin. But now it's a time where you can actually put the beans in. They're already cooked. The sad part is that the lentils match the color of. It's like, look, it's quite boring. Look at that. It's brown on brown, different shades of blah. Look at that.
Yeah.
All right, so now it's time to add some color, right?
The ice cube pumpkin.
You need ice cube for that? I'm gonna actually put some of the 2 tablespoons, or look at this. This is my tablespoon. Like, it's a heaping tablespoon. Those 3 of the pumpkin puree. That's about a half a can of my pumpkin. And then I'll use that for another batch when I make that later in the week. And then we're going to take those fire roasted tomatoes and pour them in. And this is where you want to put in that 1 tablespoon of lemon. Or the lemon juice, not lemon, but lemon juice. You might as well take that measuring spoon that you had from the spices and pour in a tablespoon. There you go. That was easy enough.
What's the chicken stock or the vegetable stock last?
The vegetable stock is last. Well, and the vegetable stock is one of those where, depending on how chunky you want your chili, you might put more or less. But now it's just a matter of stirring it all together and combining all the ingredients. And yeah, I would probably put in a cup of the 1 cup of the chicken stock, or you can start with half a cup or 3/4 and see how it looks. Because mine is looking really thick at this point, and I think most people like their chili a little thicker. So start with half a cup and see what happens, and if it's the right consistency for you. Make sense?
Yep.
So half a cup made mine a little bit creamier, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I think,
We did a cup and it actually made it a little bit thicker.
yeah, but I think of another half a cup would make it too runny. So I'm just gonna put another 1/4 cup, and then I think it'll be the right consistency, at least for me. At least for what my pot looks like. So it all depends, but some people like it like this, where there's no liquid at all. But I think I want a little bit more than that, so I'm gonna add another half a.
That's what ours looks like.
All right, well, I can't actually tell what that looks like.
Did you put the parsley in yet?
No, that's at the end.
That's at the end.
Well, you can put that in if you want. It just depends on. You can use it just as a garnish. You can use it as part of the the spices dish. So I still have my dried parsley here. So I'm gonna take my scissors, cut up it, and then slice that in here. I'm gonna cut it into here so that it. But yeah, you can put the parsley in now if you want, because we're waiting for it to kind of cook and blend together. And Shannon, I think check your beans to see how they're doing. If you need to turn up the heat a little bit just to get them cooking a little bit more, that's great. But just try a little teaspoon of them or forkful, see if they're getting soft. And if they are, then you can just add it into your pot.
Yeah, they're ready.
Okay. So now you can, once your turkey is all cooked, then you can put it all in together with the beans, the beans, the fire roasted tomatoes, and if you're gonna put the pumpkin, you can put that in. But this is what mine looks like with 3/4 of a cup of liquid, and I like it that consistency. So I'm gonna leave it like that. If you want it a little bit thinner, then you can put in more of the vegetable broth. That's what
Spinach.
it's called, right? And we never put any salt in. You probably need to put a little bit of salt in there. Although maybe I should try a teeny bit. Just to be safe. I'm gonna take a teeny bit, put it on my plate, continue stirring this. So far, it looks really good. And it smells really good. And if anybody wants to come over sometime and actually cook with me here, you're more than welcome to. So I'm gonna try this as it is. It definitely needs a little bit of salt.
I guess the spinach is last.
Yep, the spinach is last. After we put the salt in, you can kind of chop up the spinach into it. And like I said, you can either put the spinach in, or you can serve it on the better greens. So you can line your dish with spinach and do it that way. There's no, it has to be this way or that way. It all just depends on who you're cooking for. I'm gonna put the spinach in now. Actually, I'm gonna eat this last bite and see if it got better with some salt on it. Didn't put any on. I just gotta tell you, this is gonna be really good. And I could actually put more of the spices in there, but even more in. So you have two choices on the whether you want to chop the spinach. You can just take it, grab a handful, put it on your cutting board, and use that big butcher knife and just cut it into slices. Or you could use use scissors and just cut it directly into the pot. So I'm gonna take that and put it in, and I'm gonna do that 3 times. Right, maybe only twice because I just took a humongous handful. But you're gonna put at least 3 handfuls of the spinach in. So basically a cup of dried spinach. Like I said, I've got the baby kale, spinach, and chard mix. So it's a little bit different, but because it's the baby variety, it's going to be wilting quite quickly. You basically just want to cover the whole dish with your greens. So I'll show you what that looks like. So that's what that looks like. Can you see that? All right. So I don't know what happened, but my my screen crashed. So here I was trying to show you what happened, and I'm like, wait, why is the screen blank? So this is what you want to see is the spinach basically covering the top. And now I'm gonna blend it in. And it should take only like a minute or so for it to kind of wilt and do its thing. And then it'll be ready to eat. Just make sure all those leaves come off the spoon. But that's gonna be a nice little added bonus to give you some of the extra antioxidants to fight off the free radicals that are created when you're stressed. And none of us are stressed right now, so it's just an added bonus so that we age ourselves a little bit younger every single day with every meal that we make, right?
Yep.
So I'm gonna turn the heat off on mine, and I'm gonna stir it one more time. I'm gonna put a little bit more salt into mine because I hardly put any in earlier. And I'm gonna stir it, and then I'm gonna serve it. And it's almost like, here's one meal. It's a one pot meal. You put everything in there. You've got the squash, you've got the carbohydrates from the lentils, you've got the protein from the turkey, you've got the vegetables and the antioxidants and the phytonutrients, all in one pot. It's a fabulous thing. So anybody else ready to eat? Or is it just me?
Spinach wilt a little bit more.
Spinach just has to wilt.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna take a little portion out. And this is what mine looks like. You need to lift it up a bit. Maybe I'll turn it around so you don't see that splurred on me. There you go. That's what mine looks like. And it's good and steaming, which means that it's going to be hot. So I have to talk a little bit and blow on it, because otherwise we're going to have a hot mess and a burnt tongue, and I won't be able to eat for 3 days. And that could be a problem. So we don't want that to be an issue, do we?
Oh, it's like right here.
Jen, how's yours coming along?
It's pretty much done.
Okay.
Cheese if you want cheese.
This is what ours looks like.
Awesome. Oh, that looks good.
Throw a little cheese on it.
Oh. I found something else that would be kind of cool to throw on. Something new. Look at this. Diced avocados in the freezer section.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Oh, you lost me on the
Yeah.
avocado.
I think I'm gonna throw a couple of them in here. I think I'm gonna throw it in the hot pot. No. I'll throw a couple there, couple in there. And we'll see how it works. But I think that could be a kind of a fun thing to do. Wegmans now has frozen diced avocados.
That sounds
Yeah,
good.
like I said, you lost me on the avocados.
Well, we might have lost you, but I still have Tina and Shannon.
There you
So-
go.
I'm still ahead. So it's gonna take a little while for those frozen pieces to defrost. So I'm gonna cover them up with, but I think that'll be just like a kind of interesting addition. So I'm gonna try mine. Still pretty hot. but it's a really nice combination. Mm. I think you'll be very pleased with it.
Oh, yeah. It's very good, very good.
I'm actually gonna put a little bit more of the chili pepper in. A little bit more of the coriander and cumin and the cloves. But it's a nice combination. Very, I don't know, very, very complex. I think that's the word I want to use. And you have no idea that there's actually pumpkin in it, or the squash. It all just
Hey, you
kind of
don't.
melts in together.
I mean, you had the slight taste of it, but you really don't.
Yeah, it's kind of hidden in there. And I think I'm gonna cut up more of the spinach into it. I think I want a little bit more, but overall, I really like this dish. I think it's,
Actually, I put the full thing of spinach in mine. And it
Did you?
will, yeah,
Well,
it will, and
I have
it
I
will,
have
it's
a
so,
big humongous container. I don't know. if
that's
I'll
the
fit this
container I
whole
put
thing
in, and it willed it so much, it actually, it's in there, so you have the taste of it. but
Awesome. So our next class is gonna be, it's the second Tuesday of November. So that's gonna be November 9th. And it's gonna be chicken with mustard and thyme with roasted spaghetti squash. And that's also with thyme and garlic.
That sounds good.
It's really good.
So, you know, we're
This is
gonna do
really
more
good.
squashes because this is the season for squash. So chicken with mustard and thyme with roasted spaghetti squash. And that roast spaghetti squash has garlic and thyme in it as well. Okay,
Okay,
Yep.
so Shannon, are you almost done?
Oh, yeah, I'm done.
Okay, did you try it yet?
very good.
I can't actually eat it. I want to cleanse right now.
Okay, well, enjoy, just take a taste of it and let me know how you like it.
I will later, maybe.
All right, well, enjoy it. Thank you for joining me and the Cooking Fun with Joanna. And if you have any questions or have any questions about how to make a portion of this, or want to tell us how yours turned out, just make a comment below or contact me at www.nutritioninmotion.net. Bon appetit and see you in 2 weeks.